I was so wrong about this. Hi, Shanna Rowe Jackson here from Caution Artists at Play, and today I want to talk about the 5 things that I wish I knew when I was first starting out as an artist. There are other artists who have done something similar, and I always find these videos to be really informative, and it's really interesting to kind of get a peek into other artists' pasts and just see what they've learned. I think Paint Coach is one of the people that I've watched recently who has done a video like this. I'll link any related videos below so that you can see other artists who are talking about the things that they've learned over the years. But I always find these videos interesting, so I thought it would be fun to kind of share the things that I wish that I had known when I was first starting out. Sorry, you're gonna hear my dog in the background. He's sitting on a really creaky piece of furniture right now, so you'll hear him kind of sighing and squeaking and whatever, but it is what it is. So let's just jump right into it. I have been doing art for a very long time, as many of you know if you've been watching me for a while, and I did art for many years before I ever posted online. And so a lot of these things are things that I didn't learn until I started trying to share my artwork. And so I was mainly self-taught for, the majority of my life. I was a self-taught artist, and it wasn't until I was like 10 years out of high school that I went to school for art. And by then I was already working in my current style. I just wanted to have more exposure to art. So many of these things I actually learned even before I went to school. And as any of you know who are self-taught, sometimes these things don't come intuitively. And sometimes, you just don't know until you know. So I'm going to be calling myself out here a little bit on some of these things because, when you're self-taught, you just do what you can with what you have and you go with it. And really, the whole main thing is to let yourself explore creatively and to get joy out of your art. And that's what I did for many years. But I did stumble through some things, and I had some arguments with some people about some of these things. And the first thing that I want to talk about and get it right out of the way is copyright. I had this so wrong when I was younger. So when I was in high school, I had an awesome high school art teacher, like phenomenal. I loved my art classes. But I've always been somebody who's interested in realism, and he had a ton of references in our classroom. And this is not abnormal in a classroom setting. It's not unusual to copy from masters or to copy from photographs or things like that when you're doing it in an educational way. However, the one place where my teachers dropped the ball was where talking about copyright in reference to when you're actually trying to make a living as an artist. Once you're out of that classroom and you want to start selling your artwork, it's a big no-no to just copy random photos that you find without asking permission. And I learned this the hard way. I actually argued with somebody who was definitely more of an expert in the field. I was one of those, well, I'm painting it and it was a photo, so it's a different medium, so I've changed it kind of people. Oh my gosh, I was so wrong. I was so wrong about this, and now I'm like, this was like over a decade ago. I was still young and new to the internet. And again, I had always been taught, hey, here's a pretty calendar with pretty landscapes. Feel free to copy whatever you want from it. Like, never told what copyright actually was. I saw it, like I saw the little symbol in the back of books and stuff, never had any idea what it meant. And really the main takeaway from this is you want to respect other creators, but also it's good to know copyright so that you can protect yourself. You want to know all around, especially if you're going to be selling your artwork, that you're covered and that you're not infringing on anybody else's rights. And that is something that I didn't realize before. I never really was interested in copying other people's artwork. However, or I should say copying other people's paintings and stuff. However, since I've been interested in realism, obviously I rely heavily on photo references for a lot of my artwork. And in my mind, well, it's a painting, so it's changed now. And just FYI, there is no percentage. You hear that bandied about on the internet. And I'm going to link the, because I don't want to have these big arguments because again, I was one of those people who argued against it, and I learned the hard way. Like, I was handed it to, like, it was handed to me by an expert. And then I decided I'm going to start researching. And I did. And so I go by, because I'm in the US, I go by the US copyright laws. And they have a whole website dedicated to it because there are laws there, and they are to protect creatives. And some of the main things that you don't have to like actually register your copyright. You own your copyright from the moment that you create something. So the moment you write that poem or that song or that book or you paint that painting, you own the copyright to that. The moment you click that shutter and take that photo, you own the copyright to that. So that literally means you're the only one who has the right to copy. That's what copyright is. And so if a person takes a photo and they post it on the internet, really, they're the only ones who have the right to copy it, unless they tell you, yes, I can copy this, or they release it into the public domain. Publishing it online does not mean public domain. It doesn't mean putting it in the public to see. Everybody puts their art in the public to see. That's how we sell our work. So just keep that in mind. Google and Pinterest, they are not copyright-free places to find your reference photos. Again, I found this out the hard way because I was out there like, oh, all the world is a playground. And now the artwork that I did back then, I'm not going to post online. I'm not going to sell because I really technically didn't have permission to create it, especially when you're creating things faithfully. Now, I'm not saying not to look at photos to get inspiration, or to like look at many, many different photos to figure out how a lion or a tiger looks or whatever. But when in doubt, ask permission. If you can't get permission, then see if there's a similar reference photo that's on an actual copyright-free reference photo, like Pexels, wildlifephotoreferences.com. There are many different websites that are dedicated to giving us copyright free material that we have permission to use as artists. Now, I love photography, and so learning about copyright actually really helped me narrow my view and actually helped me reel it in as an artist, because now I work mostly from my own photos. I have some friends who like to go hiking and they send me some photos and give me full permission to use them, full permission to sell whatever I make from them. And then obviously if I have commissions, I might use the client's own reference photo with permission. But for the most part, I really like to work from my own photo. And that actually helped me narrow things down, like I said, as an artist. It really helped me hone my style because it's my view and my composition right from the get-go. I'm setting up the photo the way I like it. I have all the color and the light and everything there. And I also was there to experience the image before it was created. So I have all those feelings and memories wrapped in, and I find that that has helped my artwork a lot. And it's very inexpensive these days. If you have a camera phone, you can start right in your own home and take your own reference photos. So I definitely recommend trying it out. You might, taking photos actually helped my compositions, and so it might actually help you grow as an artist. So I just recommend taking your own photos every once in a while. But anyway, I'm going to link the frequently asked questions from the copyright website below, the uscopyright.gov below, because the frequently asked questions are a little bit more comprehensive, and it usually, there's a lot of things in there. You'll read it and you'll be like, oh wow, I heard the opposite online, but it really breaks things down a lot more easily. So yeah, with that out of the way, learn from me. I have all kinds of artwork that I really loved from high school it'll never see the light of day. You've never seen it, and I don't put it online. And I just like to respect other people's rights. And like I said, there's many, many ways to still get references out there that aren't impeding on other people's rights. And so yeah, there's my little rant on that one. I'm kind of passionate about it now because I felt like such an a-hole after, and when I learned. And there's a lot of misconceptions about it online, so go right to the source, especially if you're in the US. The laws are spelled right out for us on the website that I'm going to link below for you. Do your own research. You don't have to take my word for it. But I don't want any arguments in the comments about it either. Like I said, I've been there and I've researched, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to give you legal advice. All I can say is please just actually study. Don't take other people's word for it. Go to the source. I'm sure that if you're in a different country, they also have copyright laws, and they probably have that spelled out somewhere on a government website. So just do your due diligence and be respectful of other people. That's all I can say about that. And I learned it. I learned. So the next thing that I want to talk about, and if you watch my videos, you hear me talk about this all the time, is I wish I knew about lightfastness. Now, lightfastness refers to the pigment when it's exposed to light. So anything that you're working with in an artistic material with color, if it's exposed to light, it has the possibility of fading. And so lightfastness refers to how possible it is to fade. You have some pigments that will last 100 years or more under museum conditions, and then you have some, such as fluorescence, that will fade within a year's time, maybe even less, depending on what medium you're working in. And so I wish I knew about this when I was younger. I am somebody who has been trying to document my work since I was just a wee little girl. Like, I've been doing art. I've always wanted to be an artist. I'm one of those cliche, I was born an artist kind of people. Like, from the moment that I was little, I wanted to be a famous artist. Now, I'm not concerned with being famous. I just want to create and have a good time. But I've always been concerned with documenting my work, and I didn't know when I was younger about lightfastness. So now that I'm selling my work, I really care even more, not just to document for myself. And I've been really lucky. Honestly, I've been lucky. I have a lot of stuff from when I was a child that hasn't faded. So I have gotten lucky because I keep them in portfolios and things like that. They're not out hanging on the walls necessarily. But even when I was first starting out, I think it wasn't until like 2010, 2011 that I started posting my artwork online. And again, it was around the same time that I was like, oh, copyright laws exist. I started learning, oh, paint can fade? Like, it's just something that people don't necessarily think about. Now, some people create art in a way that they know is going to be temporary. If that is your gig, go for it. Like, some people like the fleetingness of certain mediums. You know, some mixed media artists, certainly people that like to work with things in nature. You know, like, some things, you know, are not meant to stand the test of time. And if that's the type of work you do, that's fine. But if you're somebody who is concerned about archival qualities, definitely learn about lightfastness. And there are different tests for lightfastness. You have the blue wool scale, you have the ASTM testing, and you know, you can do all that research online. I will link a few resources below, but definitely most artist products will have lightfast ratings. Like Derwent, obviously Golden, like all the big name brands that you've heard of, Winsor & Newton, they've taken the time to invest in lightfast testing. You'll have some lesser quality art supplies or some newer art supply companies coming out, and they'll just say, this is lightfast. But they don't necessarily put the ratings on the individual things themselves. So there's no way of knowing how lightfast they are. Like, somebody could say something that's like a 4 on the ASTM is lightfast, but I mean, yeah, it's lightfast compared to something that's fugitive, but it's not lightfast compared to something that's a 1 on it. You know what I mean? And so it's all relative. So it's nice to have the ratings. And so now when I'm buying art supplies, I look at the ratings ahead of time so that I know that the colors I'm getting are going to stand the test of time, so that if I sell the artwork or if I have it in a gallery or somewhere, it's not going to just sit there and fade on the wall. Because I would hate for somebody to spend their hard-earned money on my artwork, something that they fell in love with, just to have it sit on the wall, fade away into nothing. And also, I put a lot of time and effort into my art, so I do want it to last, especially when I'm working with my realism. I spend hours on my realism, sometimes days. It really takes a long time. And with that much of an investment, that much of myself put into it, I definitely want to make sure it's going to last. Now, I'm not as concerned with things that are crafty, and this is all up to you. Again, with your artwork, you got to make those decisions for yourself. This is just something that I wish I knew when I was younger. But with craftier things, I'm a little bit more lenient, because it's just there to have a good time. Experimental things in my sketchbook, things like that, I'm going to use supplies that don't cost as much money, and I'm more concerned with just having fun and creative expression. But for things that I know that I want to sell, I'm usually more apt to go for the lightfast stuff. Okay, and so speaking of different like mediums, lightfastness, things like that, something else that I wish I knew when I was younger is the fact that there is value in all different types of art supplies. So being self-taught when I was young, I always just looked to the masters, and most of the master's works that you see online or in books, they're usually paintings. More specifically, a lot of oil paintings. But so in my mind, when I was younger, like, drawings weren't worth as much as paintings. And then I discovered colored pencil. And I was able to do realistic work with my colored pencil and get beautiful results, and it changed my mind. And that's what really, like, I was already interested in trying different supplies. Like, that's how I ended up trying colored pencil, because I love, if you've watched my channel, I love playing with different supplies. But I didn't necessarily take every supply as seriously as I did paint. And I had started in watercolor when I was really young, because we all had those, like, Crayola watercolors and things like that. And then I found acrylic paint, and it was so vibrant and immediate, and it gave me a similar look to oil paint, but it was more accessible for me because of my living situation and things like that when I was young. And so I fell in love with acrylic, and that was my main medium for the longest time, and it made me feel like a grown-up artist. And I just didn't have as much value. Like, I had drawn obviously my whole life, like, who doesn't? Like, I didn't grow up with a lot of money, so I used what I had on hand. And so it's kind of counterintuitive for me to have been like, oh, well, it has to be paint. Because my whole life I used pencils. I used carpenter pencils, those flat ones, whatever I could get my hands on when I was a kid, because my dad had those laying around, whatever, like Q-tips to paint with. So I'm somebody who knows that there's value in all these different supplies, but for a little while there, I was thinking I had to paint. I had to be a painter in order to be an artist. That's just not the case. If you're in love with a medium, use whatever medium you're in love with. If you like markers, if you like pencil, if you like me, I like it all. And I've discovered that now because I was getting that itch. And then I came across another artist who I really respected a lot, and I saw some colored pencil work. I'm like, you can do that with colored pencil? I'm like, I'm going to have to get some colored pencils, because I've always been interested in realism. And then I was shopping for colored pencils, and I had gotten just some cheap ones. And of course, like, it kind of gave me that, like, feel for them. And then I came across the book by Aliona Nicholson, The Colored Pencil Painting Bible. And that changed my life. And I'm like, holy crap, like, you really can do some things with colored pencils. And then I'm like, I always thought of colored pencils as child's play. I thought of it as something kids used, like Crayola, things like that. I never thought of it as a fine art medium. And that's what got me thinking, what other supplies did I feel that way about? And can I make realism with them? It was like a fun little challenge. So then I'm like, I'm going to try some markers. I'm going to try some oil pastels. And my life has been so much more enriched by these experiences. And I find that every time I try a new medium and I start learning that new medium, I learn things that I can take back to my old mediums. Like, my acrylic paintings have gotten better. My oil paintings have gotten better. And all of that has gotten better. And now I find I have to jump around. It's funny, because when I'm working in colored pencil, I really miss my paint. And then when I'm working in paint, I really miss my pencils. And so I find that even though my overarching style is still the same in all the different mediums, I really enjoy all the tools that are out there. And I'm not saying go out there like, I have too many supplies. I mean, I'm not lying. I have too many supplies. I know that. I'm well aware. You don't have to have that many supplies. Work with what you have. But don't feel like you can't be an artist because all you have is a number 2 pencil and you don't have paint. You don't have to be a painter. I thought I had to be a painter. I am a painter, but I also love to draw. Like, don't limit yourself. That was a very big rookie mistake on my part, just because I had very little exposure to the art world before I was online. I have a lot of creative people in my family, but they don't work in the fine art realm. They're more crafters. And so all I saw was these pictures of Monet paintings and Van Gogh and things like that. And I thought it had to be paint. And that's just not the case. So the next thing that I want to talk about is being inspired by other artists and not seeing them as competition. This was a hard lesson for me. Because I, again, wasn't raised around a lot of other artists. I had never had that art community. And I was used to being the artist in my life. And I have to say my life is so much better with other artists in it. Nobody's going to understand the way you feel about your art the way another artist does. Nobody's going to understand that roller coaster thing. And this is one reason why I love the internet. I mean, there's some things that aren't great about the internet, obviously, because it can really spike the imposter syndrome when you see another artist doing really well, or it can sometimes be discouraging. But I try to look at other artists as inspiration and with respect, because I know how it feels. And if another artist is succeeding, that's freaking awesome. You know what I mean? That's amazing, because we all want to do that. And we all are here basically doing the same thing. We're pouring ourselves out with mediums, you know, we're expressing ourselves. Even those of us realism gets a bad rap because it's not as expressive. I put my all into my art. A lot of that is me. You know what I mean? I don't just copy photographs slavishly. I'm changing a lot of things. But the reason why I am creating the art I'm creating is because I resonate deeply with the subject. I deeply love butterflies. I love landscapes. I love nature. I love skies. I love trees. And I pour myself into those things. My memories, my imagination, my feelings, all of that. And a lot of times there's some frustration. As you know, if you're another artist, which you probably are if you're watching this, there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot. There's a lot of ups and downs. And no one's going to know that the same way another artist will. And so artists are friends. They're not competition. Like, I know it's hard if you're going up against somebody in an actual contest, art contest, for instance, but you have to realize that art is so subjective. Your art is not going to be everyone's taste. It's not going to be for everyone, but somebody else's art might be. It's like falling in love. People are going to buy the art that resonates with them. It's not just about technical skill. It's about, they look at that art and it makes them think back to when they were at their grandmother's farm, or they look at that art and it takes them back to their honeymoon and the night under the stars, or whatever. Like, people resonate with art for different reasons. It's not just about technical skill. So if another artist's artwork sells, it's not because your art is shit or their art is better. Like, there's really no reason to put it in that context necessarily. It's because somebody else's heart connected with that art. And that's okay, because there will be somebody who resonates with your art. There will be. It's the same thing as friends. You're not going to be friends with everybody. Not everybody's going to like you, but you're going to have those friends that really resonate with you. It's the same with art. It's the same with selling art. So don't view other artists as competition. Don't view them as, oh, they have more followers than me. You're in a different path. It's not a contest. We're all here to just live our best life and live our best artist life. And so just keep that in mind. And look at it as inspiration. If another artist is really killing it, then that means it's possible.
Hi, Future Editing Shanna here. I just wanted to also mention that some of the best connections that you will have in the art world are going to come from other artists. So just enjoy the community and surround yourself with other creatives, because all that's going to do is make you a better artist in the long run, and it might open up some really awesome doors for you.
And along those lines, one of the fifth thing that I want to talk about is not to compare yourself to others in a negative light. So again, with the competition, it's inevitable that you're going to look at somebody else's artwork and you're going to be blown away, and you're going to want to do that. You're going to want to be able to have artwork that blows other people away. Again, find inspiration in that. But don't look at it as, I'm never going to get that good. I get a lot of comments on my channel that are like, I wish I could draw as good as you, any artist who's on YouTube gets these comments. So I'm not bragging. It's not, when you put your artwork out there and people are seeing it, if somebody really likes it, they're going to say these things. And I've even had people say that it makes them not want to try because it's not as good. And I have to say, I wasn't always this good. So I try to compare my work to my own work from the past. And so instead of comparing myself to others, I use others for inspiration and for a benchmark to know what's possible. And then I look at my own art itself in reference to what I used to do. Because anytime you compare your newest work to one of your oldest works, you're always going to win. Because you've grown. It's inevitable. The more you create art, the better you're going to get. The more you grow as a person, the better you're going to get. Things change. You change. So your artwork's going to change. It's inevitable. You just keep working. That's how you get there. And that was one of the things that I had to learn when I was especially first starting out on the internet, because people were already out there doing it. You know, people were already out there showing off their work. And then take what you can from those people instead of being like, oh, like, they're this good, I'm never going to get that good. No, learn. They learn, especially those of us who are out there giving advice and things like that. Take what you can from that advice and don't try to mimic the other person. That person already exists. But take what you can and take it back to your own work. And realize that you are your own best competition. Don't try to outdo Lisa or me or Nick or whoever you're watching online. Try to just get better than you were yesterday, and it'll get you further. But use those people as inspiration. Be like, well, they probably weren't this good 10 years ago, and their journey's already 10 years ahead of mine. So what will I be in 10 years? So inspiration versus comparison. Only compare in a way that's going to positively affect yourself. But if you're looking at other artists and you're feeling discouraged, step away from social media and go work. Go draw. Step away from social media, and instead of looking at if you're just having a really bad mental health day and you can't look at other artists' work that you like because you're feeling down about it, step away from it. And then just go look at your own work. Take the newest project you're looking at and then go look at something that you did 5 years ago. Or even if you're brand new, something you started like a year ago. Go and look at that, and then you'll see and you'll have better perspective of what your journey is like. Because your journey is the only one that matters in the long run to you. Don't worry about other people's journey. Inspiration is great. Don't let it get you down. Okay, so those are the 5 things that I wish that I had known when I first started out as an artist, especially online. Again, I wasn't exposed to a lot of artists when I was younger, and so it was kind of a whirlwind when I first started being exposed to all these different people online and things like that. And I feel like knowing these things now has helped me a lot as an artist, and it keeps me productive, and I just feel a lot better. And so I hope that this helped you. I'm sorry it was really, really long. Like, this is like running on to a half hour. So it's a lot of rambling, but I hope that it helps you in the long run. And let me know in the comments below what you have learned over the years that has helped you and that you think would help newer artists out there. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week. You have a great day. Bye.